the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Hey, thanks for being with us. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio network. It is Monday, the 16th of May in the year of our Lord 2016. I'm Kevin Wade. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. We're broadcasting, as always, from our flagship station, WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia. And since it's Monday, I'm joined in the studio by none other than the show's founder and inspirational leader, Rick Trader.
Kevin, great to be with you once again on this beautiful, beautiful spring afternoon.
It's gorgeous. I mean, it truly is. I like Saturday better. And those listening here in the Mid-Atlantic know exactly what I mean. I'd broken out the shorts and the casual shirt on Saturday to do some yard work. That was a mistake. It's always best to have long-sleeve shirts when you're working in the yard.
Why is that?
Well, you don't end up with scars on your arms like I did.
Oh, well, it depends what you're doing. You must have been working in the rose garden.
I was taking up branches that had fallen through the course of this winter and trying to squeeze through some holly bushes and take them out to the waste recycling can. And, well, I should have known better, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them think.
Kevin, I have been to your house.
Yes, you have.
It is a lovely little house in one of the nicest parts of Delaware you can imagine, Old Newcastle. If you didn't know better, you'd swear we're in historic Williamsburg. I mean, but it's authentic. It's authentic.
Williamsburg is kind of like a Disneyland setup. I mean, that's a reconstruction.
That's why I'm saying Old Newcastle
is authentic.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm not taking this the wrong way, but it's not that little of a house.
Well,
that house actually has some size to it. You've only seen about a quarter of it that's downstairs.
Yes, well, that's true.
The last count, we have 5 fireplaces, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a world of worries trying to maintain the wreck. But
all right, in that palatial estate, you have down
in a semi-comfortable townhouse.
But Kevin, and I've seen your yard. Your yard's not that big, Kevin.
And if anyone's listening from the county of Newcastle, Delaware, I do not want a real estate reappraisal on this. It's just a simple small house. But go ahead, Rick.
Your yard's not that big.
It's not big. It takes me more time to get the lawnmower out and pull the cord than it does to chase it around the yard.
Well, you need a goat to cut your grass, or a sheep or something.
I'm not that historically correct.
And certainly one of those old push-type mowers. I mean, if you were young like Mateo over here, that would be an option. But
I'll tell you, for our listeners, if you want to have a really pleasant afternoon, go to Newcastle, Delaware, along the Delaware River. It's just within 6 minutes of the Delaware Memorial Bridge. And it truly is like walking around parts of Williamsburg.
It truly
I mean,
is.
there's sections of town that still have the cobblestone streets, a public green, some ancient church structures.
A couple of good restaurants there.
Visit the local shops, spend some money there. But it's a pleasant time to walk around, day or night. And the residents in the town have no concern for taking a stroll at 9 and 10 o'clock at night. Men and women, single people, couples, walking the dog. It's a pleasant, nice town. And if you call the police, if something has happened, someone backed into my car, by mistake, but it was enough damage, 3 minutes. They're there taking names in 3 minutes. It's a good town.
It is indeed. Mary and I have visited there several times. Actually, we didn't find it till about 5 years ago. We had a friend, this was before I knew you, Kevin. We had a friend that just moved there, and she invited us down for lunch, and we were so pleasantly surprised that at least a couple of times a year, Mary and I go down and we have lunch or dinner at Jessup's. Once a year, we visit the Wade family home for their Christmas open house, and that day we love to spend that day in Old Newcastle doing the house tours, which is free. It's just a great little place.
And I'll expand on that since we're on to this subject. This coming Saturday, which would be the 20th, the 19th, something like that. This coming Saturday is a day in Old Newcastle. It's a time when the town opens up its homes and its gardens to visitors. There is a theme being shared by a number of the community groups and churches, and it is bars and pubs and public houses of Newcastle. So our church, which is a Methodist church that doesn't actually have wine for communion, just grape juice, they had to figure out what the musical repertoire was going to be when the theme was pubs and bars and public houses. So the musical theme, and this is going to be a sing-along to all of our listeners. If you go to Newcastle on Delaware Street, Newcastle United Methodist, at 11 in the morning, and then I think 1 in the afternoon, we're going to have a repeat, and it's a sing-along of temperance and prohibition songs.
You know what? Mary and I very well may likely come down to see that.
Well, come on down.
As I said, we love Old Newcastle.
And all this week, just like you kind of clean up your yard and your house when you have visitors coming on the weekend, all this week, people in the town, independently, this isn't organized by big government, are painting fences and cleaning up the yard and pruning the bushes and making their part of the town presentable, because we'll have 10,000, 20,000 visitors in the course of the weekend. But come on down, Rick.
No, I'm serious.
And come and join.
Mary and I
come and join in our temperance songs at 11 in the morning and then 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Newcastle United Methodist Church.
Well, last year on December 13th, I think it was, Kevin, they had Christmas in Old Newcastle. And Mary and I came down and we visited you.
You
had your open house that evening, but we also visited your church.
Yes, you did.
And what a choir was hosted by your church. I mean, Mary and I loved...
Hosted is true, because voices came from... Actually, many voices from New Jersey.
Right. And of all the things... And Mary and I, at Christmas time, we love to go to different churches and concerts and chorales and whatever. But we both said... that is the best that we've heard. They were fantastic.
It was the best I ever heard, too. I mean, we actually have a choir director and an organist who is well known by 40 or 50 years of musical students. He's now retired but active in our church. And he calls these groups together that he's worked with since, go back 40 years, the 1970s. And many will, heed the call, and they come, and it's a reunion of sorts. And the music truly was beautiful that day.
It truly was. They were fantastic. They were really fantastic. And so, Kevin, why don't you give the who, what, where, when, how again, since we're talking about it?
Well, the who, what, where of today's show?
No, of Saturday.
Saturday is a day in Old Newcastle. It's the longest continuously running home and garden tour in the United States.
Can't wait.
The longest continuous running home and garden tour in the United States. Goes back probably 80 years now. And they even kept the tour going during the Great Depression. That's town of Newcastle along the Delaware River, about 4 miles south of the Delaware Memorial Bridge. The town will be open all day with tours from probably 10 in the morning till about 5 in the evening. Some are ticket access, some are free access. Lots of activities out in the open air. And the churches and some of the other groups are having this musical event presentation staged in different places about pubs, saloons, and public houses. But at the United Methodist Church, those God-fearing people will be singing temperance tunes.
All right. And is there a difference between Old Newcastle and Newcastle?
Is there a difference between lightning and lightning bugs? Yes, there are.
Yes.
Newcastle is an undefined area, roughly zip code 19720, that goes from the river halfway across the narrow width of the state. kind of almost up to Wilmington, also known as Murdertown, USA. Within that larger area are the city limits of the city. In fact, the city of Newcastle is how it terms itself, of about 5,000 people, which is something of a citadel of sanity. Even though most of the government in the town is headed by quasi-progressives, they're not full-blown. They actually have to balance a budget, and they do work very hard to make sure that our tax money is well used.
I just wanted you to make a distinction between Newcastle and Old Newcastle.
Exactly. Old Newcastle is the town. It's the city of Newcastle, going back to its original charter. In the 1600s, it's the first place William Penn, the great proprietor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Colony, first place he set foot in the New World was at the end of Delaware Street in the city of Newcastle, Delaware.
Well, I did know that because, as I said, I've been there. But, Kevin, would you like to take us to break?
We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7, theallenden.com. I'm Kevin Wade. I'm joined here in the studios by Rick Trader. It's the first day of the week. We have a great lineup of guests coming. I have a commentary on the other side of this break. You stay with us. We will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
We're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know? Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856 227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commando's radio network. I'm Kevin Wade. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network, and www.ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network. Or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone anywhere on planet Earth by calling 832-999-1199. My commentary today is called Insulting the Dignity of a Nation. The extreme left continues destroying the binding ties of civil and civilized society. When they're finished, everyday citizens will be at each other's throats, for no one will trust anyone or anything or any institution or even trust God himself. They want you to give up on yourself and your values and your conscience and your courage to act. They need to warp you and all of us till we accept that up is down, cold is hot, and more importantly, wrong is right. When you're able to warp the conscience of enough good people, the others will succumb to silence. They'll yield to the fear of being alone and isolated and exposed to the ongoing fury of the ever-angry left. This is the great and bitter contest. It's playing out in every corner of American society today. The left's latest assault is on the dignity of women. Emboldened by the court's brash defiance and rejection of traditional virtues and public values, the left now gropes its way into the privacy of the ladies' restroom. Since time before time, in every culture around the world, women have been permitted their own places without the intrusion of strange and unknown men. Respecting the privacy of women in their private rooms is an ancient and universal virtue. And not only is natural good decency, but it's also a deeply held natural instinct. The extreme left's perverse appetite to strip women of their privacy and dignity is too nauseating for civilized people. The left's goal to intimidate into silence and to stifle the urge to assure security to women is a line too far. This is a line for men to make a stand for the privacy of their wives in a bathroom. A line where any mother will stand to preserve the humility of her daughter in a shower room. A line where a granddaughter will stand to protect the comfort and dignity of her grandmother as she rests a moment and refreshes herself in the restroom. An even more dangerous assault is taking place. It's not only about bathrooms. Can the extreme left break the will and natural instinct of men to protect the women in their own families? Women in their neighborhoods, girls in school. Will an entire population be intimidated into silent compliance? If you can get an entire people to abandon what they know instinctively is good and healthy and right, then any wrong can be forced on them. That wrong being installed without any further resistance. The left will then have stolen from an entire nation its conscience and its will to resist. In North Carolina today, this battle rages between right and wrong. The people there are giving strong support to the elected officials who've passed a law protecting women in public restrooms, locker rooms, and showers. The Democrat leadership in Washington, led by President Obama, wants to break the will of the people there. Obama is threatening to stop funding for public education. Several large corporations, which long ago gave up representing the values of their own customers, have piled on North Carolina with warnings of financial consequences and withheld jobs. PayPal is a leader of this assault from the corporate side. Monsanto is in there too. In this turmoil, something strong and good is slowly taking form. The people in North Carolina and across the country still have a conscience and a will to act. They won't abandon what they know is right. They're beginning to form up and to hold a line and then to push back, while rallying to hold up and celebrate the courage of the people's lawmakers in the Tar Heel State. There is also a movement to defund PayPal by cancellation of all PayPal accounts. If PayPal wants to push open the doors of ladies' rooms across the country, everyday Americans can close their doors to doing any more business with PayPal. As for Democrats who insult the women in this country and threaten the funds for school children of North Carolina, there is another reckoning. It's called Election Day in November. Americans have woken up and are standing up. There are lines that won't be crossed. Conscience and courage still live, and right will defeat wrong. I'm Kevin Wade, and that's the way I see it, Rick.
Kevin, another great commentary, and it's just another rip in the moral fabric of our society. And Barack Obama, who's supposed to be the president of the United States, is the one pulling at the tattered edges of the cloth.
Well, that's how he's going to go down in history. I mean, he's simply going to be measured by the damage that he's done to the fabric of the nation. Be it the bathroom bills, be it some perverse view of the rights of people who are strangely confused about their own sexual nature, be it broken borders and standing up for American citizens versus illegal aliens. Step by step, day by day, he has been on the wrong side of issues important to the American families. And history is going to judge him that way, as a divider, not a uniter. And he's going to be unable to erase that.
I think academia also plays a part in this. Kevin, I saw this article today by a Harvard professor, treat Christians like Nazis, while arguing that Christians and other conservatives have lost the culture wars in America. A professor at Harvard University insists that those with such religious and political views should be treated like Nazis for taking a biblical stance on today's social issues.
Well, I mean, basically what he's saying is my religion is better than yours. So he's attacking the religion that's broadly held by 80+% of the people in the country, while he is advancing his own unspoken religion, which is extreme liberalism. It's a contest of religions, and you can't have the new take root until you uproot the old. That's what's happening, but I think a lot of our listeners know that. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7. You stay with us. We will be right back in about 4 minutes. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Traders here. Our first guest is coming up on the other side of the break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
This is Frank Giordano, president of Philly Pops. The Your Music Matters morning show and the Philly Pops have put together a great event on May 23rd at the Investors Bank Performing Arts Center in Washington Township. The Philly Pops presents the All South Jersey Jazz Festival. 6 finalist high school jazz bands, all from South Jersey, will perform. Schools were chosen during the recent South Jersey High School Jazz Band Competition on the Your Music Matters morning show on WNJC. At the concert, Each band will be performing. The show will also feature the Philly Pops Big Band Ensemble. The highlight of the evening will be the announcement of the winning high school band, who will play with the Pops Ensemble. Tickets are available at the box office for $20 and $10 for students. Tickets are also available at Ticketmaster.com. More information about the competition can be found online by going to 1360radio.com or seniormatters.info. Hope to see you there on the 23rd and listen to these young people perform.
Hi, we're David and Patty Berrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader, the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Thank you, Colonel West. You are, in fact, listening to the Conservative Commandos radio network. And we're broadcasting from the flagship station for Conservative Commandos, WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia. And we're listened to around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7. I'm Kevin Wade. It's Monday, the 16th of May. In the studio with me is Rick Trader. Rick?
Kevin, we have our first guest with us, and please make the introduction.
Our first guest is Elizabeth Harrington. She's a staff writer with the Washington Free Beacon. She graduated from Temple. It's one of the hometown schools nearby Philadelphia in 2010. Prior to joining the Free Beacon, she worked as a staff writer for CNSnews.com. And with that, Liz Harrington, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You have an article out. Facebook's list of authorized news sites includes communist state-run media, The Onion of all things, and also many left-leaning publications. Would you pick up that story, Elizabeth?
Sure. So this was in response to the criticism that came out against Facebook after several of its former contractors who were in charge of the trending topics on the website. They said that the Facebook routinely censors conservative content and keeps those stories from trending. And so last week, Facebook came out and they said they wrote this long blog post about transparency, and they said we don't, choose the trending topics. It's all by algorithm, and then we have our staff members go through to make sure what's trending is accurate and whatnot. So they said they released a list of 1,000 websites that they use to corroborate stories. Basically, in order for a story to become trending on Facebook, it needs to have been picked up by at least 3 websites from this list. And we don't really know how they came up with this list because it doesn't appear to be that it's just a top 1,000 traffic list because some websites on there I don't think would be visited enough to make that requirement. So just going through this list of what they use for trending topics and looking at what they view as a reputable news source. I mean, first of all, they have The Onion on there, which is satire. It's all satirical, and you find lots of times people get duped from sites like The Onion and pushing fake news stories. So that's one of them. And then they have a number of communist, pro-communist websites in China, government-run propaganda sites in China and Russia. All of these make the list, but then lots of other sites don't. So it was just interesting to us to kind of point this out, that they're happy to, technically or based on their own guidelines, they're happy to make Chinese communist propaganda trending on Facebook, but meanwhile they've been suppressing conservative news.
So they're saying that they show trending topics based on how often that topic or that story runs on websites, but all the websites are from the left. Pravda and Mao Zedong's favorite proverbs. Now let me ask a question, Elizabeth. Is the Washington Free Beacon on that list?
No, we're not on the list. So
is CNS News on that list? Is Washington Times on that list?
Washington Times is on there. There are some conservative sites on it. Drudge Report, Breitbart, Blaze, Daily Caller, Washington Examiner, Washington Times. But there aren't others. I mean, when you go through and see how many far left sites there are. I feel like there's more. I mean, you have the Daily Kos, Jezebel, Gawker, New Yorker, Atlantic, Mother Jones, Salon, Vox, Huffington Post. You have all of those on this list, and it doesn't seem like there's as many conservative news. And then they just have really bizarre ones like TigerWoods.com and MarthaStewart.com and the Bro Bible. I don't know. It's interesting because they're saying that this list is all news, and this is, we take this very seriously, and we just want real good news to be trending. And then you take a look at the list, and it's kind of bizarre.
I think I know the answer, but let me ask on behalf of our listeners: Has Facebook disclosed their algorithm? Algorithm is a fancy word for the math equation that they use to determine how to score these different articles floating through these different sites. Have they released the algorithm for anyone to review?
I don't think they've released the actual algorithm. I mean, they say that a computer does it, and it brings up what's getting the most traffic, what's getting the most buzz, and then they have their own employees go through, and then they go through that list to pick the topics that are trending. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how their algorithm works, and now, Facebook is meeting with some conservatives to kind of talk about this, but I think it's clear that Facebook is a pretty liberal company, and most of their employees will probably be liberal. So it's not really that surprising that these employees would prioritize more liberal topics from liberal news sources over conservative ones. And I think, it's the same way in academia or the mainstream media. Lots of times, it's a bubble, and they all think the same. So, you're going to have suppression of different viewpoints and conservative viewpoints.
And it's a case where they believe they're standing in the middle of a stream, but in fact they're pretty far off in some side channel, and they don't know the magnitude of their internal bias, because in the same way that a fish doesn't know it's wet.
Right.
Now, they're saying an algorithm will rank these different stories, but then there's a human filter to bring some human experience to the final rankings in terms of what is trending. Or is that speculation on your part, Elizabeth?
No, that's what they say. In their statement, they basically go through the process, and this was in response to that Gizmodo article that exposed the employees saying that they were told and they regularly censored conservative news. So they say that trending topic, but they are pushing back on this and saying that no, it's not people, it's not. But it is. I mean, they say the stories for what becomes trending are surfaced by this algorithm, which they determine. I mean, it's all just, nobody's involved. It's through hashtags and how many clicks things are getting. But then they have a trending topics team that goes through those, and then this list, like I was talking about, they make sure that it's been on, 3 or more reputable websites, and then they make the decision for that to end up trending. But yeah, that's why we found it so interesting when they released this list of reputable websites. They have a bunch of communist propaganda sites and Russian state TV and radio companies
and
that
Onion,
were formed
and the Onion.
under the Soviet Union.
It's like having Mad Magazine. Elizabeth, is there any truth to the rumors I've heard that this ranking algorithm in the program was written by the same people who did Al Gore's climate change prediction?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard that.
Okay. Well, he was wrong on that about 20 years ago. But Elizabeth, would you stay with us? We're going into a break, and I'd like to pick up this conversation on the other side of the break, if we could.
Sure.
Elizabeth Harrington, staff writer for the Washington Free Beacon, is staying with us. We want you, our listeners, to stay with us, too. We have a little commercial break. We'll be back to pick up the conversation. You stay with us. We'll be back in 4 minutes.
really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
We're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. For mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone anywhere on planet Earth by calling 832-999-1199. Elizabeth Harrington, staff writer from the Washington Free Beacon, has a column out reflecting on Facebook's list of so-called authorized news sites from which they can determine what news articles should be boosted in the trending topics section. And she's agreed to stay with us. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for staying with us.
Sure, no problem.
Do you have the names of any of the so-called valid media outlets in Russia and China that Facebook is using?
Yeah, so you have China Daily, which is vetted by the Communist Party, and it's one of their main propaganda news sources in China. They have several others. They have Liberation Daily and the Global Times. Those are more. Those are also communist publications, and they've been written about extensively as very hyper-nationalist and not free, not anything like, our media with the First Amendment over here. And then in Russia, you have RT, which gets more than $300 million per year from the Kremlin. You have also Russia State Television and Radio. You have Channel 1 News, which was launched in 1938 as Soviet Central Television. So you have several here that are, clearly not news. I mean, and just like with The Onion, on its face is not news. You have, and this is even more dangerously so because they're propaganda outlets for regimes that aren't friendly to the United States. So those are on the list, and it's just interesting because this is their defense on how they how they pick their trending topics, and they say that the reporting in the story that has to be that becomes trending and then can be seen by millions and millions of people on Facebook needs to be corroborated by at least 3 websites on the list. And when you have outlets like the ones I just mentioned, it's pretty troubling that even if they are just using the algorithm and not really, and they're checking just with their own list, you can have propaganda just spreading to millions and millions of people.
Elizabeth, my co-host has a question, but before he goes to that, I want you to explain to our listeners why it is so influential that Facebook promotes certain stories. Would you tell our listeners the size of the audience and the impact Facebook has?
Sure. I mean, they have, several billion people that use Facebook around the world, and the trending topics is basically what everybody sees when they log in on Facebook. You can choose it'll show you what is trending, what people are talking about. And, the idea is kind of like with Twitter and hashtags, it's a good resource if you want to look at news and see what people are talking about. So everybody will see this on their homepage. And you don't have to go to it. You can still share whatever stories you want, but lots of people do visit, the story that's linked to trending because it's right there, and so it can really spread and reach a lot of people, and so it's really important because so many people use it.
And certainly for an audience who may not be tuned into a political talk show right now, who are getting their news of basically in the daily mix of friendly contacts with neighbors and family and photos they're posting, and they want to dabble a bit in the news, and that's where the influence comes in, I believe. Elizabeth, my co-host Rick Trader has a question for you. Rick?
Here in the Conservative Commando's radio show, we're speaking with Liz Harrington from the Washington Free Beacon. Liz, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has invited a group of influential conservative leaders to a private meeting at the company's headquarters this Wednesday. What do you think, where do you think the pressure for Mark Zuckerberg to host this meeting came from?
Well, I think probably just because the optics and the public and the users, because, I mean, it doesn't look good when, half your users in America aren't liberal, and they're not Democrats. So, everybody uses Facebook. Most people use Facebook. So you have lots of conservatives on there. So I think it's damaging to their company when you have stories like this come out. So I think, he wants to make it to save face and look like, oh no, like we're going to address your concerns and all of that. I think they kind of have to because, we were talking about millions of people that use the service, use the platform. So
do you think it could? Do you think any of the pressure could have come from their users and maybe people closing their accounts or people putting pressure on companies that advertise with Facebook?
Sure. I mean, it's just not good for business to have this kind of story come out. And it was a pretty damning story, really. I mean, it shouldn't be that surprising to conservatives, but I think when you're talking, you don't really think about it, and when you're using Facebook, lots of people, my family members use it and share news stories all the time, but when you hear that they had so blatantly were trying to hide conservative news, I mean, that's a big problem, and I think there absolutely has been pushback from that. And
Elizabeth, Kevin Wade here. I have to believe that you've heard anecdotal stories about Facebook kind of restricting the access of people who share conservative topics. Maybe someone is the Westminster County Second Amendment chairman, and as they reach out to people who share the same views, they find out that their access is limited by Facebook. Have you heard these stories?
Yeah, and I've heard it a lot with Twitter as well. There's very similar controversy. They came up with their what was it called? Trust and Safety Council. And they're like, oh, we're basically like policing free speech on the platform. Like, we don't want any, hate speech. And you've had conservatives, lose their verification and stuff like that. So I think it's very similar. I haven't heard, you can still share whatever you want to on the platform, I think. I mean, I haven't heard any, just private random individuals, not being able to share a conservative news story. But just the fact that, this is the part of the site that lots of people get their news. And, you see it there on the side of the page. You're like, oh, people are talking about this. I want to see. And right now, Bill Clinton is trending because Hillary Clinton said that she would put Bill Clinton in charge of economic revitalization. And then you go to the page, they have CNN story, ABC News story. I mean, you don't see many conservative outlets talking. I mean, it's just. I mean, right there, that's just what's trending right now. But yeah, so I mean, I've heard some anecdotal evidence, but I think this story was just so bad for them because no one really would be able to tell. I mean, you can tell that there aren't a lot of conservative voices on these pages, but it's all inside the own company of who decides what's trending and not. So that's why I think this story's been more powerful. Elizabeth,
would you tell, because we're coming up in the end of the segment, would you tell our listeners how to stay current with your writings?
Sure. Yeah, we're online at freebeacon.com. You can read all my stuff there. I'm also on Twitter. My handle's at LizWFB. And, I post all my stories. And, check us out.
Elizabeth Harrington, staff writer for the Washington Free Beacon. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
We are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM. 24/7, thealllinden.com. You stay with us. We'll be back in, the clock says 6 minutes and 49 seconds.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Frank Giordano, president of Philly Pops. The Your Music Matters morning show and the Philly Pops have put together a great event on May 23rd at the Investors Bank Performing Arts Center in Washington Township. The Philly Pops presents the All South Jersey Jazz Festival. 6 finalist high school jazz bands, all from South Jersey, will perform. Schools were chosen during the recent South Jersey High School Jazz Band Competition on the Your Music Matters morning show on WNJC. At the concert, each band will be performing. The show will also feature the Philly Pops Big Band Ensemble. The highlight of the evening will be the announcement of the winning high school band, who will play with the Pops Ensemble. Tickets are available at the box office for $20 and $10 for students. Tickets are also available at Ticketmaster.com. More information about the competition can be found online by going to 1360radio.com or seniormatters.info. Hope to see you there on the 23rd and listen to these young people perform.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Thank you, Colonel West. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, and we are coming to you live from our flagship station at WNJC 1360 AM, right here in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet. I understand that new gadget's working out, Rick. With American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7, theallinin.com. I'm Kevin Wade. It's Monday, 16th of May in the year of our Lord 2016. In the studio with me is our show's inspirational leader and founder, Rick Trader. Rick?
Kevin, and we do have our next guest with us.
Carrie L. Lucas. I like that name. I really, really like that name. Is the managing director at Independent Women's Studies. Lucas is the co-author of Liberty is No War on Women and author of The Politically Incorrect Guide to Women, Sex, and Feminism. Lucas's commentaries have appeared in numerous newspapers such as the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, USA Today, New York Post, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Arizona, and a whole bunch of others. And with that, just let's get this interview started. Carrie, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being with us on this bright, sunny day in the Mid-Atlantic. You have a column out very recently. I don't have a date on it, but you can tell me. I live in a country with paid family leave, period. It's no magic bullet. Walk us through this story.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been living here in Berlin, Germany for 3 years now. I've been living in Europe for 7 of the last 8 years. And it's interesting because I think Americans often hear about the wonderful benefit system and family leave packages that women in Western Europe enjoy. And I wrote this piece to kind of give some balance to that perspective because, of course, there are wonderful things about getting a whole bunch of benefits from your government, but there's also some real costs that are often not discussed or not recognized when you hear these conversations in the U.S. So I try to caution folks that before the U.S. moves towards a one-size-fits-all paid leave mandate, which is something that Mrs. Clinton is promoting, as well as many other Democrats, they should know that there's real cost, and it can actually end up backfiring on women in many ways.
And what are people here missing in terms of the real costs?
Well, I think the most important thing is I think that this is a classic example of one of those times when it's much easier to see what you get and much harder to see what you lose. But those costs are incredibly real. Anytime government or businesses are forced to give workers something that isn't money, that means that the businesses have to figure out how to pay for that. And paid leave benefits are certainly a cost. When a worker disappears from the organization that I help run, we've got to figure out how to make up for that. That means we either have to hire a temp worker or we've got to pay them less. That money has to come from somewhere. And that's exactly what happens in Europe. These wages are lower in general, but the thing I think is most kind of interesting is you hear all this talk from feminists in the U.S. about wanting to close the wage gap and have more women as CEOs and the heads of business. Well, here in Europe, women are far less likely to be in managerial positions or in positions of leadership in the private sector. And part of it, studies have shown, is attributable to the generous benefits that they enjoy here. After all, you think about it, here in Germany, women can take over a year off after the birth of a child, and an employer is supposed to hold a job for them. Well, that sounds nice, except that as an employer, you might be thinking, boy, do I really want to hire that 30-year-old newly married woman because I know she might disappear for an entire year, maybe more than 1 year if she has a couple kids, and I don't want to have the inconvenience. And you definitely see that, and I hear that from women I've met where they feel concerned about this, that their job prospects are being held back in part because of this expectation that's created from these leave packages.
Now, how long have you been living in Berlin?
almost 3 years.
Okay. And so I imagine you can certainly speak German well enough to go to the market and some things like that, if not truly fluent at this point. My question is, when you speak with the Fraus and the Frauleins in the neighborhood, in the Nachbar, I think is the right word, I used to speak it well. It was a long time ago. but
Ein bisschen Deutsch, yeah.
Yeah. And do they understand how they've gotten tangled up in this social policy that actually does restrict their opportunities, where someone just doesn't want to put that resume to the top of the pile because of the mandated way that leave must be dispensed?
Well, sure. I mean, I've certainly heard from women. Certainly a lot of them talk about the good things about it. Oh, they're so lucky to have all this time off. But then you'll often hear people who say, boy, I've been out of work for so long. I've taken so much leave. It's hard to know how to get back in. I don't think I would be the job I would come back to wouldn't be the same job that I wanted. There's certainly, I think that they recognize on a personal level on how it affects their own careers. I have one, and it's not just women who actually end up taking the leave. I have one young married woman, or friend, who has if she doesn't want to have kids. She's very focused on her career. She gets constantly frustrated because she has a boss who says, "Oh, come on, you're going to have kids eventually," and she feels like there's this expectation, and that they might look at her a little different, and that she's thinking, are they really giving me the same opportunities they would if I was a man? Because they keep expecting that, of course, she's going to bow out and going to end up going mommy track for a time. And that has real consequences, certainly on how women think about their opportunities. And again, the numbers show it. I mean, you see it in America, women are almost as likely as men. I believe it's 12% of women and about 12.5% of men are in professional or managerial roles. And in Europe, women are about half as likely to be in managerial roles as men are. So there certainly is a clear
Carrie,
relationship.
that's a good number.
In Europe aren't doing as well.
Carrie, I want to double check. Carrie, Kevin here.
Sure.
I just want to double check. Sure. That's a good number. It's like half in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I have it in my article. I'm not sitting in front of my computer now, but it's something. Yeah, I think it's about half as likely as they are in the States.
That's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And there's a real sense of and I think that's even maybe a little misleading, because I know that there's a lot of women who end up working for government here, because those are the jobs where you can take leave and there isn't the same cost consciousness. But if you look at the private sector, I think that women are far less likely to be in positions of leadership positions than they are in the States for that very reason. What kind of company can afford to? Only big companies can. As a small company, you would have a lot of difference. And I think, again, I work for an organization called the Independent Women's Forum, and we are, a small organization that employs women, and we have a lot of women who have babies. I've had 5 babies during the time I've been working at IWF, and one of the great things is that we've been able to have conversations with women. We hired a woman who was more than 6 months pregnant with her first child for a position. We knew she had a great background, and we talked about what leave she'd want, about how we could make it work for her, and but still have it work for us. And we settled out on her having some time off, but then also being available to answer questions and to help out a little bit from home. And these are conversations we can have in the States. We were able to give this woman an opportunity that she really wanted, but because we were able to have that back and forth and find a win-win solution, that's a non-starter. That kind of is a non-starter here, and it will be a non-starter in the United States if we move towards a system like what's recommended by Democrats in Congress, where you have a one-size-fits-all 12-week paid leave for every every single worker in the country, and that's a real loss of flexibility.
Carrie,
women's group, yeah.
Carrie,
I'm talking too much, right?
No. This is a great story. In fact, I wish my wife and daughter were listening right now. I really do. But would you stay with us, because this is the United States, and we have some commercial response.
No break during that.
Oh,
sure.
Okay, very good. We're going to take a break. Carrie, you're the best for allowing us to take a break.
No, we're not taking the break.
Oh, I'm just getting instructions from the producer. We're not. In that case, let's wind it up again. No, you had such a great example. In the United States, you can have 100 unique solutions to meet the work-life balance, work-family balance of 100 women and 100 men. But in Germany, not so much.
So it's exactly. It's funny if we use the word flexibility, and that's clearly a word that everybody likes, and you'll talk about. You hear from the left how we have to give women flexibility. Well, flexibility doesn't come in government mandates. That's telling a company you absolutely have to provide at least this much benefit, or you can't offer them a job. That's not flexibility. That's the opposite of it. We have to be able to trust. You've got to recognize that. We see this with the minimum wage all the time. The minimum wage is sold as benefiting those with low income. Then you see what happens in California. The minimum wage goes up, and who's out of work? It's a bunch of the poorest people with the fewest skills who have no job prospects and no hope of getting their foot back in the door at the higher wage level. That's not good for people. It's the opposite. It's taking out cutting off work opportunities and making people worse off. And this is exactly what would happen if, yes, some people would have more generous benefits and some would benefit, but there'd be a lot of folks who would find it much more difficult to find jobs and get that foot in the door. That's particularly true for women who are going to have kids.
And the most important job any man or woman has, the very most important job any man or woman has, is the very first job. That creates, the ladder. It creates the path. And if you can't get that first step made, well, you're stunted forever.
You're absolutely right, and it's interesting because I feel like you hear all these examples, and you'll hear people talk about, Netflix just went to this, or one of these big tech firms just went, so they're giving everybody a paid year off, and you think as somebody who helps run a small organization, essentially a small business, I think, boy, good for Netflix, but that's a luxury that most people out there, if you're running a small business or work for a business of most businesses, have absolutely no capacity to offer people that type of benefits. That's would be making such requirements would be bankrupting for all but the biggest companies. And it's interesting. You'll find that a lot of the biggest companies, they don't mind hearing about these paid leave mandates. And you know why? It's because they know they're going to be able to figure out a way to get by. They'll be able to squeeze money out of someplace else, consolidate jobs. But their competitors won't. And it's those mid-sized competitors, small and mid-sized competitors, who will be pushed out of business. So you hear about, a lot of businesses will sign on kind of in their self-interest too, because the big guys can withstand it. It's the small ones that won't be able to, and that's why we've had anemic job creation for the last 8 years. Obamacare being a big part of that, partly because of this mountain of red tape that small businesses just can't get around. So you got to be careful not to fall for some of these lines and this idea of government mandated flexibility, which is an absolute oxymoron.
And also, before Hillary rolls out this utopian plan, maybe the Republicans would like to talk to the hundreds of thousands of women small business owners to see how it touches their lives. Carrie Lucas, thank you for being with us. We know you've got something else brewing, so we're going to let you get off this phone call. But you really need to tell us what your call plan is, because the quality of audio in this call is remarkable if you're in Berlin at the moment. And quickly tell our listeners how to follow your writings and your activities at the Independent Women's Forum before you leave.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. And please come visit us at iwf.org. We're also on Facebook, where we share a lot of our information. That's Independent Women's Forum. You can find information there on all these workplace issues, as well as tax and budget and some cultural stuff. So please come check us out.
Carrie Lewis, thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Bye-bye. Hey, that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? It's opportunities that never happen because someone tried to impose utopia on half of the working people in Germany.
And there is no utopia. At least I've been told. I haven't found it.
No, there is, and you will enjoy it or pay the price. That's what the Feel the Burn people will say. And with that, we're a little bit disjointed on the schedule, but I'll tell you how we do it. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM. Our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world, on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7. I'm Kevin Wade. You stay with us. We will be right back.
Commando's radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
We're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. For mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And, of course, you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. I am Kevin Wade. In the studio with me is Rick Trader. It's Monday, and I want to thank you, our loyal listeners, for being with us. We've had two good guests. We'll have another guest coming in in about 8 or 9 minutes, Matt Kittle. He's a 25-year veteran of radio, newspaper, and online journalism, and is at the watchdog.org Bureau for the Wisconsin Reporter. And he's going to be talking about some abuses and mismanagement inside, you guessed it, the Social Security Administration. So that's Matt Kittle, just coming up after the half hour. Rick, what's on your radar screen?
Well, I'm just seeing this, that the Supreme Court sends the case of the Little Sisters of the Poor back to lower courts, and the Supreme Court has remanded Zerbeck versus Birdwell concerning the HHS contraceptive mandate in the Affordable Care Act back to lower courts. It did not decide whether or not the mandate violated the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and instead essentially punted the case down for further proceedings. This means that Little Sisters of the Poor, a group of religious women, will not face fines for not providing comprehension coverage. And this also affects other groups. For instance, our friend Father Frank Pavone at Priests for Life, they're also affected by this. But it just goes to show, Kevin, how important this election is going to be, that with the next president probably nominating the 9th justice to fill the Scalia seat, and Bader Ginsburg's in her 80s. There's a couple of justices that are in their 80s. We really need to have somebody other than Hillary Clinton make those nominations.
I feel pretty confident that someone other than Hillary Clinton will make those nominations. And I think what we're seeing, and I saw the headlines that the Supreme Court, and this is a bit unusual, they decided to punt on this and not hear, so to speak, the cases. I think that they know that their time is precious, and Obamacare may not be standing on its own 2 feet 12 months from now after a new government takes, at least new leadership takes office in January. So why tie up the courts now, when it's very, very likely that the next president and his Congress will undo the grand mistake of the new millennia, that is the Affordable Care Act.
Well, and I'd love to know what the vote on this was, Kevin, because it was unanimous. It was unanimous.
They all decided to kick it back.
That's very interesting.
Pick it up. In fact, what's interesting is even though Judge Scalia is no longer with us,
right,
his absence has not let loose a flood of liberal rulings. If anything, it's kind of seized up some of the most egregious possibilities in terms of how the Supreme Court could rule, because it's locked 4-4. Or, in this case, they decided not even to process it.
Very interesting. Got to give Father Frank Pavone from Priests for Life on shortly. Not today, we can't, but sometime this week we'll have to get him on to see how it's going to affect his organization.
I always like the way that the way the political spectrum has fallen out over the past 40 years. That people on the conservative side of that spectrum, all of us in the studio here, kind of see ourselves. We could phrase our view about many things, many things in life as pro-life. We are for life. I mean, we're just for life. Freedom in life, the quality of life, life from the moment of conception, life in its declining last few weeks. We are for life. And it's the other side. It's the grim, dark coldness of the other side that is continually offering reasons why they need to cut a life short, to abort it in the womb, or to assist its assisted suicide for those who are troubled or ill, or ease people out without their full understanding of how their lives will be terminated by lack of care. Things they don't understand. All that comes from the left. There's a darkness about them. So I'm very glad. I'm very glad to be associated with those people who have a political view that's pro-life.
I am too. Well, Kevin, it's break time. Let me take it to break this time, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. Today's show is being brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Kevin and I will be right back with our next guest, MD Kittle.
This is Frank Giordano, president of Philly Pops. The Your Music Matters morning show and the Philly Pops have put together a great event on May 23rd at the Investors Bank Performing Arts Center in Washington Township. The Philly Pops presents the All South Jersey Jazz Festival. 6 finalist high school jazz bands, all from South Jersey, will perform. Schools were chosen during the recent South Jersey High School Jazz Band Competition on the Your Music Matters morning show on WNJC. At the concert, each band will be performing. The show will also feature the Philly Pops Big Band Ensemble. The highlight of the evening will be the announcement of the winning high school band who will play with the Pops Ensemble. Tickets are available at the box office for $20 and $10 for students. Tickets are also available at Ticketmaster.com. More information about the competition can be found online by going to 1360radio.com or seniormatters.info. Hope to see you there on the 23rd and listen to these young people perform.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Kevin Wade. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM at our flagship station in Philadelphia. And around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM, FM 24/7. That ends in .com. In the studio with me is our show's founder and inspirational leader, Rick Trader. Rick, we're coming up on the final guest interview on this first day of the week, Monday.
Yeah, and we do have that guest with us. Kevin, in the honor of the introduction is yours.
Matt Kittle. Matt Kittle is a 25-year veteran of radio, newspaper, and online journalism, and is Watchdog.org bureau chief for the Wisconsin Reporter. Kittle's work has appeared on Fox News, In Human Events, Reason Magazine, Newsmax, and Town Hall. His special investigation into politically charged John Doe probes, Wisconsin's Secret War, was the basis of a 2014 documentary on Glenn Beck's The Blaze. That's something you need to see, Wisconsin's Secret War. Kittle has made several appearances on Fox News, including On the Record with Greta Van Susteren. He serves as a weekly politics commentator on Lake 96.1 FM in Lake Geneva and WRJN AM 1400 in Racine, Wisconsin. And with that, Matt Kittle, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry about that long introduction. I'm going to have to get a good editor, I think. I've written too much biography for everybody. I need to shorten that thing up.
No, well, I need to speak faster because I know, Matt, I know that this is only just a superficial cut of 25 years of experience, and thanks for the work that you are doing. But you're here today to talk about the Social Security Administration. Apparently, at least one senator in Washington is saying that apparently the system is rigged. Walk us through what these allegations of corruption and incompetence mean to us, the taxpayer, and the contributors into the Social Security Fund.
Absolutely. Well, we've been looking at the Social Security Administration's ODAR office. ODAR stands for the Office of Disability Adjudication and Review. It's a hefty name, which means that this is the office that reviews the appeals for Social Security benefits. And at this time, there are something in the vicinity north of 1 million claims that are backlogged out there. And it is particularly egregious in the Milwaukee office. Now, we have two issues going on. One is that we have disability claims, as we know, that are just sent out there with really no vetting, where we actually have charges of judges getting kickbacks like we do in West Virginia, a very high-profile case there, where this guy was saying yes to everybody, and it turns out, according to an 18-point indictment, that he was working with a lawyer and skimming off some cash, and rubber stamping every one of these applications or appeals that went through. Now, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that we have people who are legitimately going through the process. They're having to wait 1,000+ days for an answer. And again, I would hesitate to point out as a conservative, you don't have a guaranteed right that you're going to get these benefits, but you do have a right to due process. And that's one of the big problems. But the other problem that's going on with all of this is what one whistleblower tells Wisconsin Watchdog is a shell game where these agencies are just dumping a bunch of cases into other agencies trying to make themselves look better.
Matt, can I interrupt you there? When you say, Matt, let me interrupt you. When they're dumping a bunch of cases, how do you mean?
They are basically shifting hundreds, if not thousands, of these long-standing cases that are before them to other places. My whistleblower in Wisconsin told me they dumped them off in places like New Mexico, in New Hampshire, in other parts of the region in Illinois. And the whole reason was so that these backlog times wouldn't look as bad as they were. But in fact, they were worse than people thought. You have incompetence going on. You have agents who are losing files after bringing them home. Remember what's in a Social Security Administration file.
Sure, it's everything.
It's everything an identity theft expert would want. It's got your Social Security number, your identity, your address, everything. So we've had those sorts of cases. And when these folks, and we've talked to a number of whistleblowers now inside, when they try to alert management, the top administrators in these facilities, at least in Milwaukee and some other places we know, they're retaliated against. They're bullied, they're threatened, they're harassed. And this is some real serious stuff. And that's what the subcommittee of the Senate last week was really looking at, these long wait times and the real problem with due process.
Now, what has caused this surge of application? I mean, clearly the actuaries know how many people are going to be turning 62 or 65 or 67 in the next year or two in terms of people who are routinely anticipated to touch the Social Security Administration to start talking about getting their pension checks. But what has caused this surge? Because it appears to be this logjam appears to be some indication they weren't aware a surge was coming their way.
Well, I think the short answer to that is the Obama administration. Over the last 7+ years, the push has been on to expand every form of government program, and Social Security disability is no exception to that rule. Now, this has been building for a long time, and I think the Bush administration certainly has something to do with it. Generally, I think just the bureaucracy, the massive bureaucracy that is the Social Security Administration has a great deal to do with that. But we have more and more people who are looking for these benefits. We have more and more people who are deemed to be mentally ill in this society. We have more and more people claiming more and more problems. In some cases, we have these bureaucracies saying, "Yeah, bring them all in." In other cases, we have them, denying people who arguably have legitimate concerns or needs. But it definitely has pushed up, and we certainly see that by the case files. Again, over 1 million cases in backlog, right? That's just in backlog right now across this country for disability payments.
Matt, can I ask you to put this conversation just on pause for about 3.5 minutes while we do a little commercial spot? Because I would like to pick it up on the other side. Matt Kittle, he's with us, and he's talking to us about, I'll call it a breakdown in the Social Security Administration. And at least one U.S. Senator says, quote unquote, I would say the system is rigged. Matt's going to be explaining this to us on the other side of the break. Please stay with us. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM, FM 24/7, theallinin.com. I'm Kevin Wade. You stay with us. We will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
That's Colonel Alan West. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Trader's in the studio with me. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, ccrshow.com. Mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 1 p.m. just after lunch, roarradio.net, and at 9 p.m. before turning out the lights and turning off Megyn Kelly, tune in to highplainsdailynews.com on the internet. Now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any working phone anywhere on planet Earth by calling 832-999-1199. Matt Kittle, 25-year veteran of radio, newspaper, and online journalism, is with us. And he's kind of spilling the beans about something's gone terribly amiss at the Social Security Administration. Matt, thank you for staying with us. Just before the break, you had mentioned there were approximately 1 million unresolved cases. Did I hear you right?
That is correct. More than 1 million now, and a lot of that has to do with the growing numbers that we talked about before, and the push for the government to be all things for everybody. But it also has to do with incompetence, misconduct, malfeasance in this agency, the Social Security Administration, and that's exactly what the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Subcommittee on Regulatory Affairs and Federal Management got into in its hearing last week. And, I can tell you this, we have concerns being raised not just by conservatives, not just by Republicans in Washington, but by some Democrats as well. As you noted, the headline of our story last week, Senator to Social Security Administration official, I would say the system is rigged, That statement didn't come from a conservative. It came from Heidi Heitkamp, the Democrat from North Dakota, who raised
hardly Ted Cruz from Texas.
That's right. We have some bipartisan support for, at least at some level, for deep concerns about this agency.
Now, there was a story, and this kind of reinforces what you're talking about in this column. About 2 years ago, my home state, the first state of Delaware, there was an open letter written by our one of our liberal senators, U.S. senators, to the Social Security Administration, asking why the approval rate for disability payments was only about 70%, and that was low, apparently, in comparison to adjoining states. And that was stunning to me, that the Social Security Administration would be approving such a high proportion of people walking in and claiming disability. I believe anyone who's due the benefit should get it, but I don't think a single person should misrepresent their status and condition and thereby steal out of the common treasury that all of us are going to be relying on at some point in the future. Do you have any understanding how many fraudulent cases might be circulating out there, and whether that is part of the problem in clearing the caseload?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, we have this case in West Virginia, and it's not alone, but it's arguably the most egregious example, where we have an administrative law judge. Wall Street Journal pointed this out about 5-6 years ago in an investigative piece, and it wasn't until, get this, mid-March, I should say, when these folks finally had appeared in court. We were talking about 18 indictment counts of money laundering and all kinds of fraud, where you had this administrative law judge who has since retired, who was working with this big shot attorney in Lexington, Kentucky, and they were putting together these deals. That guy had a 99% approval rating. He never said no to anyone, and now we're finding out why. According to the indictment, is that he wasn't saying no because he was getting something like $9,000 a month in kickbacks for approving everybody. So yeah, there are serious cases of fraud out there, and that stems, I'm afraid, from mismanagement. And when whistleblowers are taking these concerns and issues to management, they're being ostracized, they're being traumatized, they're being reprimanded and retaliated against. I talked to one of the whistleblowers in West Virginia. She spent years in a bureaucratic hell because of this, and she is owed a great deal of gratitude from all of us taxpayers. She is owed a huge apology and much more from the federal government.
What can our listeners do? I mean, this seems to be symptomatic of so many deep-rooted problems in Washington, where we, the people, just feel powerless and out of the circle. What is it that we can do to get them to function again and to reduce the fraudulent claims and to put the wrongdoers behind bars and just make the system work for all of us?
Well, do what this is the one thing that I can suggest immediately, because this is going to take a long time to fix, or at least get something straightened out. But do what individuals inside these offices have done in contacting Wisconsin Watchdog. Contact your radio show. Any listener out there who is working in a federal agency where you are seeing waste, fraud, and abuse in government, report it to the watchdogs, to the reporters. I understand the risk and the peril that you put yourself through. Some very brave people have done just that, thankfully, so we can shine some light on it. But that's the only way we're going to straighten this out, and we have to keep at it. Because you know what? The Social Security Administration, all of these bureaucracies in the federal government, they wait for these storms to pass, and then, it's business as usual. They deal with the PR stuff, they get beyond it, and then it's back to business, and the people who called them out, they're in a very difficult position. So we need to continue to shine light on these abuses.
And that business as usual, unfortunately, is bad business as usual.
Yeah, for the taxpayer, I'm afraid it's a bad deal, and for our basic trust in this government, it just erodes it that much further.
Do you feel that anything you've turned up is in any way unusual? That it is unlike what might be turned up by someone doing similar legwork in Mississippi or Oregon or West Texas?
I'm afraid that it's very similar to what you'll find in these places. I'm afraid that incompetence and misconduct is systematic. It is happening throughout this system. I'm not saying everybody's a crook, and I'm not saying everybody is committing misconduct, but I have heard from too many whistleblowers and too many sources from around the country, and I'm getting now every day somebody new every day who's saying, this office, there are problems here. This office, I was bullied because I spoke out. Another office, a report that we had today where a woman was a war veteran, and she's serving in these offices, and she has one of her managers asking her if she's taking her meds for post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's all a joke. This is happening in all of these places, or in many of these locations, these offices around the country.
Matt, as you know, it's not simply the Social Security Administration. We're hearing similar stories from the Veterans Administration. We hear similar stories of a neglectful, at best, a neglectful senior management with the Border Patrol. It's everywhere. It's a pandemic through the federal bureaucracy.
Oh, yes, there's no doubt about it. And you mentioned one of the key culprits is the Veteran Affairs agencies and hospitals across this country. And we're dealing with that here in Wisconsin with over-prescription, deadly over-prescription of veterans. We've been writing a lot about that, investigating a lot about that. And that's happening in so many places, too. It is. It's frightening, but we need our whistleblowers out there.
We sure do.
And more than ever, we need to protect.
It's a culture of incompetence. Matt, thank you for being with us. Quickly, in 30 seconds, tell our listeners how to stay current with your good work.
All right, very good. A lot of good work at watchdog.org with my colleagues. You can find us also at Wisconsin Watchdog. Just type it in, and we'll be there.
Thank you, Matt Kittle.
Thank you.
Rick, that just about wraps it up. Another first day of the week, another good show in the archives of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. It's always a pleasure.
I always look forward to Monday, Kevin, working with you. Hey, Kevin, before we leave, one more time, give a shout out to what is happening in Newcastle, Delaware, this coming Saturday.
In the old colonial town of historic Newcastle on Saturday, this coming Saturday, between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. is a day in Old Newcastle. It's the longest continuously running home and garden tour in the entire country. And in addition to some ticket access activities, there's a wide range of things that you can just walk by and enjoy. There's probably going to be an encampment of some reenactors. Mm-hmm. There's music available. There's lots of food available. It's a place where it's okay to bring your kids and bring your grandparents. Everyone is safe. Everyone's going to have a smile. Everyone's going to enjoy themselves. That's Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Old Newcastle, zip code 19720, just a few miles south of the Delaware Memorial Bridge. I'm Kevin Wade. This is the Conservative Commandos. Thank you for being with us. God bless, Godspeed, and may God save the United States of America.